One of the most corrupt countries in the world has taken German taxpayers' money and used it to buy the offices of the Frankfurt tax authorities and is now charging rent. At least, that's the story that's going around social media at the moment, but I generally don't trust some random guy on Instagram shouting into his phone. So I assumed that a quick Google search would show this to be just a silly conspiracy theory. Well, as it turns out, this story has actually been reported by the German public broadcaster, so there has to be some truth in it somewhere. And yes, that does indeed seem to be the case, although of course, shouty Instagram guy is missing a lot of nuance. So, what is going on? The accusation goes something like this. A few years ago, the German state of Hesse sold off a series of buildings that it owned and which were then leased back to it. The Frankfurt tax office is one of those buildings, and it was bought by Azerbaijan using money that Germany had previously given to it as development aid. And now Germany has to pay rent to Azerbaijan. That is over 16.5 million euros a year to a country that Germany already gives money to. And Azerbaijan is notoriously corrupt. It is rich in oil and gas, and yet somehow its citizens remain desperately poor. Meanwhile, the government invests heavily in stocks, shares, and real estate all over the world. So let's see if we can discover the truth behind these allegations. And the best place to start is probably the property itself. And this is it, an office complex built in the 1990s specifically to house various state government institutions and other official bodies. And as you can probably hear, a kindergarten. And all of this in central Frankfurt, just a stone's throw from one of Germany's most important railway hubs. This is prime real estate. The whole complex is pretty big, with enough space for 2,600 workers, and in fact includes an old army barracks, although I'm not sure if that actually forms part of the controversy. Among other things, the complex houses 2 industrial tribunals, a police station, and yes, 4 out of 5 of the tax offices responsible for the city of Frankfurt. The offices previously occupied by the 5th tax office have since moved to be closer to the citizens that it actually serves, leaving the state of Hesse to think what government workers could actually move into these now empty offices that it's still paying rent for. The complex was, as I mentioned, built in the 1990s and originally owned by the state of Hesse. But in 2005, it was decided by the state government that in order to raise funds in the short term, a whole series of properties should be sold off. And this was one of them. It was sold to a German real estate company, which seemed fine. I mean, the whole idea was controversial, of course, but at least the building was still in German hands. At least it was, until 2018, when the German real estate company sold it on to a company in Luxembourg called Capitals Property. That company has 3 shareholders. One is the Korea Investment Corporation, which invests money on behalf of the South Korean government. Another is a company called Capitals Holding. But that's not really relevant to this video. What is relevant to this video is the 3rd and biggest shareholder, the State Oil Fund of the Republic of Azerbaijan, known as SOFAZ. It owns 40% of the company and so receives 40% of the profits generated by it. That in itself isn't exactly a red flag. The country is rich in a valuable commodity, sells that commodity to countries that need it, invests the profits to generate even more money that can be used to benefit all of its citizens. The problem is that last part, because Azerbaijan has a very poor record when it comes to using its wealth to benefit all of its citizens. It is, though, very good at using its wealth to benefit the family that's been ruling the country since 1993. It is really hard to know the extent of the corruption that is undeniably rampant in Azerbaijan, but it is clear there is a lot of it. An example would be the Azerbaijani laundromat scandal of 2012 to 2014. The Azerbaijani government embezzled a total of $2.9 billion, which it then used to bribe Western politicians to play down its human rights violations. At least 3 of those politicians were German: Karin Strenz and Axel Fischer of the CDU, and Eduard Lindner of the CSU. Lindner has received a 9-month suspended sentence, and the prosecution against Fischer is still ongoing. Strenz unexpectedly and very suddenly died of natural causes before her case could come to trial, but her husband has been ordered to repay the bribe that she received. So yes, German taxpayers' money really is going to a corrupt regime, but it is not true that the state of Hesse sold the building to Azerbaijan. It sold it to a German company, which then, years later, sold it on to another company which is partially owned by Azerbaijan. As for how much Azerbaijan is getting from the deal, that is far from clear. The state government is not disclosing exactly how much rent it's paying on the property, but records do allow us to calculate that in 2021 it paid 16.5 million euros. It'll certainly be more than that now. Not all of it is actually going to Azerbaijan though. Of course, only the profits are paid out to the shareholders, and Azerbaijan receives 40% of those profits. As to how much that is, I don't know. So far, so bad, but what about the other half of the accusation? That Azerbaijan used money given to it by Germany as development aid. Well, obviously a government as corrupt as Azerbaijan's is going to hide exactly where the money came from, so let's instead ask a slightly different question. How much development aid does Germany pay to Azerbaijan? Well, I did some digging, and it seems that at the moment there are 3 projects ongoing. One is building a partnership between the state of Baden-Württemberg and various vocational training centers in Azerbaijan. Another is a project to help protect biodiversity, and a third is helping to set up a national park which will cross borders with 2 other countries. Altogether, these projects are worth 7.29 million euros to the Azerbaijani government. These projects are still ongoing, and so far only about 3.3 million euros has actually been paid out, which is less than half of the total. How much of that money is actually going to the projects that it's supposed to go to? Now, to put this into perspective, Azerbaijan doesn't even make it into the top 15 countries receiving aid from Germany. Top of that list is Syria, which in 2023 received 700 million euros. Germany gives about 30 billion euros of aid every year, and Azerbaijan receives roughly 0.02%. It may not be that Azerbaijan is literally just gleefully receiving money from Germany, which it then uses to buy German government properties. But speaking for myself, I feel that a country that makes so much money from oil should not be allowed to claim that it's too poor to run a nature reserve. So basically, here's my conclusion. Shouty Instagram guy didn't make the story up, but did get a lot of the details wrong. The building wasn't immediately sold to Azerbaijan, it was sold to a German company, after which the Hessian government had no say in who bought it from that German company. The state of Hesse is indeed paying rent to Azerbaijan, but indirectly and unwittingly. It's not the worst thing that Azerbaijan is doing at the moment. It's also not the worst scandal to rock the German political establishment. But it is an embarrassment, and it serves as a great example of why, if you are going to go for short-term gains, you really should think through all of the possible consequences. And for another example of the state of Hesse getting egg on its face, check out the video that I've linked to down there. And this is for you. Wait there, I'll take it to you.